Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the third session of the IDAZ Innovation Academy webinar series. My name is Latifa Lashimi, based at Kriavet in Belgium, and I'm part of the IDAZ International Resource Consortium Secretariat. I will be your moderator for today's session. So thank you all for joining us. About today's session, and it's a part of a webinar series which is designed to strengthen innovation stewardship within the global animal health research community, with a particular focus on supporting the transition from scientific discovery to real-world impact. Today's session, we are very pleased to welcome our third speaker, Sven Arnott from Provax and Ghent University. Sven brings a strong perspective from both academia and industry, with hands-on experience in translating scientific discoveries into applied solutions in animal health. So during this webinar, we will explore with Sven practical approaches that can help facilitate the transition from academic discovery to innovation in animal health through co-development with industry. So the session will be address key elements such as fostering an entrepreneurial spirit and appropriate organizational structure, effective management of intellectual property, the rule of proof of concept studies, and target product profiles, and the importance of early interaction between industry partners and regulators, rather than presenting a single or prescriptive roadway to success. The webinar is designed as interactive exchange of experience. So before starting, I would like to invite you at the end of the presentation of Sven to feel free to exchange your experience, to reflect on what works and what doesn't, and to actively participate in an interactive discussion. Of course, your perspective as researchers or vendor or industry partner or policymaker will be essential to enrich the conversation. As information, this webinar is being recorded, and the recording will be disseminated through IDAZ channels after the event. Sven's presentation will last approximately 40 minutes, followed by Q&A session that could also be considered. So I invite you to please feel free to type your questions if you have, and don't wait until the end of the presentation or the webinar. So with that, it's my pleasure to hand over to our speaker. And Sven, thank you for being here today, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Latifa. I hope you can see my screen and presentation now. Is that okay?
Yeah, I see your full screen, Sven. Thank you. You can start.
Okay, thank you. So thanks for the introduction and for the opportunity to share thoughts with the audience about what is discovery to innovation in animal health and how we could facilitate this process. So just a bit of background so that people know where I come from. So I'm from Ghent University, which is a city with a nice medieval center in the north of Belgium. Belgium is a small country, center of Europe. I'm part of the tech transfer organization of the university, which is presented on this graph, where we have a central tech transfer office. But next to that, we have what we call business development centers. About 25 of these centers cover the different domains of expertise that we have at the university. We have them in different clusters, and I'm in the agro, vet, and food cluster with Provax, which is the business development center that is focusing on innovation in animal health. So with a team of people from the tech transfer office that are assigned to our cluster, and then also some people that are close to the researchers, we try to support our scientists with innovation of bringing their technologies to the animal health sector. And for that, we have the luck to have a good faculty of veterinary medicine, which is depicted here, where I'm also having my office, and where we can do research and development of new technologies, both in livestock and companion animal species. So this as a background. Now we are going to talk about how we will go from, let's say, discovery to innovation. That's the title of the webinar. But therefore, it's good to understand some definitions because discovery is something different from an invention and still different from innovation. So what do we understand about discovery? Discovery is in fact, the result of discovery research. So it's when you find something new, but that already existed before. So it's something that already existed, but you identify it for the first time. So it creates new knowledge. And as an example, in our lab of immunology, many years ago, we identified the receptor that E. coli bacteria are using to infect piglets and cause weaning diarrhea. So when E. coli bacteria bind to that receptor, which is called APN, then they are transferred through the epithelials to the intestinal epithelium, and they can infect the piglets. So that's a discovery. It existed already before, but we identified it for the first time. What we then did is think about possible applications of this target, this new receptor, this new target being the receptor, and we identified antibodies and VHH that could bind to that receptor, and that we can use as a carrier to bring molecules also across the intestinal epithelium. So when we do this, in fact, we create an invention because we create something new material that never existed before, and that can have some applications. So it's novel, it's original, it can have some applications. These are also the three conditions that you need to make something possibly patentable. So on such an invention, you can think about filing a new patent application. And then we can go to what is an innovation. So if you think about a certain application on this invention, then we're talking about an innovation that can respond to a certain need in society or in the market, and that can solve a specific problem. And in this case, the innovation or the application that we have developed is using these antibodies as a carrier for an antigen, so that we can deliver the antibody orally, the construct orally to the animal. It comes to the receptor, it transfers the intestinal epithelium, and there it triggers the local immune system to cause an immune response against the antigen, in this case, FETF, a part of the fimbriae of F18 E. coli. So with that innovation, you respond to a certain need. It's a kind of a product that you can use to protect piglets against weaning diarrhea. So this as an introduction about what we are going to talk about today. Innovation, so the transition from discovery to innovation can happen in many different circumstances. It can also be done, for instance, internally within a company. But today we will talk about a situation where in a research organization, be it a university or another type of research organization, within your discovery research, based on your core expertise, on one Blue Monday, you can identify something where you think that a possible application can be developed upon, leading to an innovation in animal health. So from this moment on, you in fact make a specific decision and you branch out. You dedicate some some investment and some tools and money to develop that application. And this needs, for that, there's also a need of a change in mindset. Because you will leave, in fact, the real exploratory research, and you will go into development. So research is more about knowledge development. The proof of concept and the development of a new innovation is really about developing a solution. So it's no longer explorative, it's really with a strong focus on developing the solution. The common aspect of both of them, research and product development, is that you still need passion for the topic because it requires a lot to do both. But it's a different game in a sense. Now, as already said in the introduction, what I'm not going to do is present a clear roadmap to successful innovation, because I don't have that clear roadmap. It's always depending on the situation, on the asset that you're working on. But we can go through the process. And that process from discovery to innovation is often described as such. So this roadmap that is presented here. So you start with your discovery, of course. Then you think about what could be an invention. So you start creating tools like we created the antibodies. Think about the possible applications of this invention. And this is summarized in what we call an invention disclosure. Then you talk with your IP expert, and they will do an IP assessment, checking the prior art, checking if what you have found is really new and wasn't known before. And if that is all true, then you can go to file and submit a patent application. Thereafter, you can start thinking about commercializing your asset. Where can it be used? What can be the market? And after that, you think about starting a company or finding a partner and starting negotiations to license. And thereafter, you can just wait until the money comes in. If you do that process as such, the chances are very high that you will end up with a failure or at least disappointment, because there is a bit more work to do, and it's kind of interactive cycle that you need to do before you really go to protect your filing, your patent, and to talk with industry for the first time. This is what I want to discuss today. So I will not talk about interaction with or negotiating with a deal with industry. We will focus on the process before that. And we can distinct two different phases in that process. So the first phase that we will talk about is the phase going really from the discovery stage to the first proof of concept. And I'm talking here about TRL. We will show a next slide to give more information on that. But in this first phase, we will think more about the possible applications of what you have found, of your discovery or your invention, the importance of your IP, securing your IP, and then some first thoughts about what the market could be and what the possible final product could be, which is defined in a target product profile. In the second phase, when we have identified the application that you further want to develop, then in the second phase, we will create a proof of concept and also think about the regulatory environment of the technology that you are developing. This is the concept, more information about this TRL concept, which is an abbreviation of technology readiness level. You see them here. It always goes from 1 to 9. It's used in many different sectors, but you can find some descriptions on the TRLs for that can be used in the animal health sector in the publication that is listed at the bottom of this slide. And here they are depicted next to the different phases that industry is using in their development cycle. So which goes from pre-development, so the discovery phase, to early development, late development. Then you have the registration phase in industry. And then after that, when the product is on the market, you have life cycle management. So we have discussed the TRLs from 1 to 9, and it goes up to it starts from, let's say, the basic identification of, for instance, a new compound that you have found, to have more information about the mode of action. And then you go into afterwards, you go into first assessment of safety and efficacy by preference in the target species. And then afterwards, going into experimental proof of concept with a better defining of your final compound, your final product. And then later on, you go to later development. So with a very well-defined product, you can go in larger trials to define animal safety and animal efficacy. And finally, then you have the steps of going to the registration and then bring your product on the market. Now, this is the whole cycle, let's say, from real first discovery to bring your product on the market. If we talk about universities bringing their technologies to industry, then very often the first phase, so the first TRLs, 1 to maximum 6 or maximum 5, let's say, they are done by university. But for the later stages, it requires higher investment. This is about GMP material, etc. Very often, this is already done in partners with an industrial partner. So we need different actors to go through the whole process, and these are the actors in the play that we will describe today. So we have, of course, the research organization. Next to that, we have industry. We also need some funding, and also the regulators should come into play at a certain moment. So these are important players, but they can also be, each of them, important facilitators of the whole process, each with a specific role. So focusing on phase 1, there the players are research organizations, industry, and funders. As said, going back to this TRL, this phase 1 is about better identification of the mode of action of what you are working on. Also, better identification of what could be the basis of a product. So let's say the API, the active principle that will later go into a product, and have some first impressions, sometimes only in vitro assays, about the biological activity of this API, this molecule. And maybe a first assessment also of safety. So that's what we call phase 1 for today. It's important, of course, especially for universities, that funders are willing to fund this phase. So therefore, the support of the government through funding programs, providing infrastructure and other supporting systems. In one word, a broad ecosystem that can support these innovations, that's very important. Usually at this stage, the funding is available both at the national and European level. Then we have some details about the first player, so the research organization. Here, what the research organization can do to facilitate the process is that they can have, it's good that you have as a university some incentives for researchers and inventors, so that you can train them about the process, but that also the criteria, for instance, that you put forward to get a PhD, they can also be important. So if you allow, for instance, that a young scientist writes a patent, and that writing this patent and having this patent application is one of the criteria that can be checked so that you can have a PhD instead of a peer-reviewed publication, for instance. This can be an incentive to these people to also think about the application of their process and to think about patenting, filing a patent application. Also, financial incentives could stimulate these people. Next to that, tech transfer, having a good tech transfer office can be very helpful to scientists, to also guide them and coach them during that process. And the fact that a university spends good attention to a tech transfer office can just be very important as a support to their scientists. What this tech transfer can do is coaching them with first scouting the inventions, so helping them by identifying potential applications to the research. Also, of course, managing patent filings and patent portfolios. So that's also a kind of specialized task that cannot be done by scientists alone. They need some support for that. If the tech transfer office could also help them by linking with industry, that can also be good support, because sometimes it's out of their industry, is out of their network. And also support by creating spin-offs, because licensing is one way, but creating a new company based on a certain by preference platform technology is another way of bringing new technologies and new innovations to the market and to practice. Also, if you have some institutional support, so money available within the university to do this proof of concept work, that can also be a very big help. But I've marked it in a different color, because that's really very important. It's really the mindset of the scientist himself or herself. So the mindset and the ambition of this person to develop applications based on the results of their research. That's very, very, very important. So what should that person then do? So if you have made some discovery, first you should really think out of the box. What can be possible applications, and then specifically in the field of animal health. So when we had identified this receptor, what I was talking about, okay, it's a nice finding, but then you can think about what can we do with that. So the fact that you bring that that you can cross the epithelium with certain molecules, what does this offer as possibilities? So think really out of the box before you really fix on one specific application. Then to make your selection of the different possible applications on what you will put your efforts on, it's also already then important to really understand or have a kind of feeling about what the interest of industrial partners could be in the different applications that you can possibly develop. We are working in animal health, which is a very competitive sector. So the cost of goods and the cost that you can spend to a new product is really important and should be low. It should be affordable. Otherwise, you will never reach the market or the farmer or the vet. And then at the end of that exercise, you will need to define your target application. Yeah, when thinking about the markets, so think out of the box. Think about the market in a broad sense. So we have what you probably all know, the big companies, the big pharma companies who develop pharmaceuticals and biologicals, like Zoetis, MSD, Boehringer. You see them here. It's really, let's say, the core of the animal health sector. But around that, there are many other possibilities to valorize your technology. It can be diagnostics, it can be feed additives. So think about all these possibilities before you fix on a certain specific application. Also, try to get some feeling with the development process within industry. And so you will start with your discovery. You will do some preclinical work, maybe some clinical work already. But then afterwards, there's this phase of registration, mostly done by the industrial partner that you want to work with. And then you have the manufacturing and the delivery. So after what you deliver, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. And the more insight you have in that process, the better you will be able to also present your technology to industry and discuss with them about the possible developments of that application. Very important is also to manage your IP. So after having made the discovery and you have defined your invention, then you can file your IP, so the patent application. But already before that, there is some work that you should do, and that is about confidentiality and also about the ownership of your results. So very often results that are generated at university, they are the result of a collaboration. And therefore, it's very important to know that during the collaboration that you are the owner of the results that you will afterwards want to market, because if you want to negotiate something of which you are not fully the owner, it can be very, very complicated. So this is something that you should monitor constantly, that you are the owner of the results, and then that you stay confidential about these results as long as they are not protected, which could be a challenge in an open environment as university is. So then when you go to think about protecting your asset, your data, your results, think also about the best way to protect your results. A patent is not always the best option. If it's more about data or algorithms, if you patent them, okay, it's a public domain. And then you have to control afterwards, if you want to protect your patent, that your algorithm is not used by others, which is sometimes very difficult. So if you talk about data and algorithms, the best way to protect them is to keep them secret if possible. Also, think about the timing of your patent application and certainly about your publication, and never publish before your patent. The timing of the patent application is important because a patent stays for about 20 years. And during those 20 years, you should also do the development. So the later you can patent, the better, because then you can profit more of your patent life afterwards during the commercialization of the product. As I said, I advise to interact with industry to understand their interest, but do that always in a non-confidential way, meaning don't disclose any confidential information to them. This can be a tricky part, so for that, always ask support from your tech transfer office, because it's a different way of talking, presenting your results, different than on a scientific conference. I think there's also an important role for the industrial partner, and they can also facilitate the process in different ways. First, also to be clear and transparent communication on their areas of interest. So we have to understand from the university, we have to understand what is the most interesting application, so that we put our assets in the right basket. But therefore, it's important for us to understand what are these areas of interest. So the better that industry can communicate on that, the better we can respond to their needs. It's also good that external innovation and strategic partnerships with research organizations are embedded in the strategy of the company, so that it's not a closed box, but that companies also are reaching out to universities to discover new technologies, new opportunities. And therefore, it's good that these companies have external innovation teams, which can be the single point of contact for people that want to offer new technologies to industry. Because this is a clear, let's say, gatekeeper within the company to talk with, and to talk about possible collaborations on new technologies. And even better, it would be that the company can also spend internal resources as at a certain stage, a way of co-development, so that the company and the university can join efforts to bring the technology to a higher TRL level. It's also important to get the kind of feeling or understanding of the market. For universities, that's often very hard, certainly in the animal health sector, because there is not much information available on the internet about this. You can do a first estimation on yourself, but also talk already a bit with people that you know in industry, because really getting a good feeling about the market is important to select the right asset on which, and the right application on which you will spend more money for developing and bringing that to a higher proof of concept level. So at the end, and this is a kind of just an example of a matrix that you could produce for yourself, where you will score different applications. So each of the applications that you can think about, you can score them at different levels. Here I set some list of priorities with the market as one of the first priorities. Therefore, you need to talk with industry. But there may be other elements defining your final choice, which can be your freedom to operate. How distinct is your technology from other technologies? Are you dependent from other technologies to apply your own technology? What is closest to your expertise? Because for a university, if you have certain animal models available within your institute, then it can be a choice that you use an application that you can validate in your own animal models. So these are all elements that can define your final choice of the target application that you want to develop further. So when you have identified that target application, then you can think about phase 2. So we have identified what you want to work on, and now we will deliver proof of concept. So bringing it to a higher TRL level, and then still industry comes into play. You still need funding, but also regulators may be an important party to talk with. So we are now here in this phase of the TRLs, where we are going to deliver proof of concept, so showing the efficacy of your application in the target species by preference. So proof of concept, what does it mean? Usually in animal health, you have to take care of 3 different aspects. That's what your industrial partner will ask from you, data on these 3 aspects. So it's about safety in the target species. It can be also, for instance, if it's a kind of application, a spray application that you have to deliver to companion animals. This spray should also be safe for the user, so for the owner of the animals. So user safety can be in play. And if something ends up into the environment, then also environmental safety will be important. Very important is, of course, the efficacy of your product. And then what is often forgotten, but also important, is that it can be produced in an efficient way and also at an acceptable cost of goods. So if you can also generate data on that, it can be very, very valuable when you start your discussions with industry. So if you have defined your application, then you should think in more detail about the product, and then we can talk about the target product profile. So there, it will be difficult in the beginning, but the more you proceed during the process, the better you will be able to define the different elements of this target product profile. But it should define the molecule. It should define how you will deliver the molecule to the animal. So talk about the formulation, also safety, efficacy requirements are in that target product profile. So for instance, if you talk about the vaccine, how long should the vaccine protect, or how early should the vaccine protect after vaccination? So these are all different elements in that target product profile. You can use this list and complete it as far as you can. Also here, discussion with industry can be important, because they also use this target product profile later on to see if the product in development can really fit with the need and the possibilities that the market can offer. So this is also a document that you can use during your discussions with industry. And then also, if you are going into proof of concept trials using animal models, or maybe doing trials on patients, the investment will also increase. So it's important that you do it from the first time in the right way. And for that, it can also be important to also talk already with regulators to get an idea about the regulatory landscape around your technologies and the guidelines that might apply to the trials that you want to organize. So having their input and knowing which guidelines to apply can help you with a proper design of the experiments that you will do to deliver the proof of concept. And there are different ways to interact with these with the regulators. And one of the easiest way and most open way, so they are very open to that, is the Innovation Task Force. So you can ask a meeting with the Innovation Task Force. That's at the level of EMA, so the EMA in Amsterdam, European Medicines Agency. And you also have local innovation offices at your national agencies. So also there you can apply for free regulatory guidance or advice around your technology. So don't wait too long to that with that because it can avoid you replicating expensive experiments later on if they are not properly done from the first time. Also for this phase, it's very important for us, for the university, of course, to get some funding. And there, sometimes it's already a bit harder to find funders that are willing to fund that kind of development work. But it would be very useful if also this development work and also the regulatory support could be eligible for funding, because I think it's very critical to increase the chance that you can create impact with the investment that you do in research and development of certain assets. This also shows why this graph shows why this phase is so important, because here you will go from we've been in proof of concept. You go from preclinical development into clinical development. And this stage, at this stage or in this phase, you can dramatically increase the chance of success that your application will reach finally the market. That's a big advantage that we have in compared to human medicine, where they are they have these different preclinical phases, often in animal models, and then they make the first in human studies. So in these different phases, they are still at a low chance of success, but because we are doing our trials usually already in the target species, we are at a much higher level of success. So you're de-risking the technology in that phase, meaning that by de-risking it, you also increase dramatically the value of your assets, which is important in your negotiations later on with industry. But still in that phase, it's always important to monitor your IP. So confidentiality, ownership of results is still important, but also still monitor the IP landscape, because it takes a few years to do that. During these few years, competitive technologies might come up, and you should consider these competitive technologies in your development strategy. And also, more and more, you should look to your freedom to operate, because the more you go through this process, the better your product and all the excipients that you use in the product will be more defined. So you can then see if certain elements are in your product are protected, by instance, by another patent from another party, and this will limit your freedom to operate. So this means that this will mean that you have to negotiate with that other party to bring your final product to the market. So if there are alternatives to that protected part of your product, then you can better use them, because it will increase your freedom to operate and it will simplify your negotiations afterwards. Also, still be careful with sharing non-protected information with other parties. That's always important, but sometimes forgotten. So when you're ready, really, yes.
Sven, just to let you know, we have about 5 minutes remaining before we move to the Q&A.
Okay.
Just a kind reminder. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. if you have this proof of concept, if you have defined your product, you have some idea about the market, then you also can start showcasing your asset to industry. And therefore, it's very important to, as a scientist, to understand that this way of presenting to industry is different from a scientific presentation. So when a scientific presentation is very detailed, very elaborate, with all the details about the mode of action, etc., very transparent. When you talk to industry and when you pitch to industry, it's different. It should be very short, very selective information, benefit-driven. So talk about the value, about the application, present your IP if you have it, make them feel that you already have a kind of understanding of the market, and focus really on the value and the feasibility rather than being exhaustive on the scientific details. I have some slides on this. So the purpose of and the content of such a pitch is very different. But maybe then, in view of time, I will skip this. But they will be available. So if people want to have these slides later on, I will be happy to share them. Important is that you start really from the problem, the market needs, and that you present then your solution and the value that you bring. So I will skip this once. Let me take some. Yeah. Maybe to mention that we will also have a conference which is specifically, so the DIA conference. It's also called Discovery to Innovation in Animal Health. It will be in Bruges in Belgium, May next year. We also have a young scientist program, and one of the sessions of this program is specifically on how talking to industry. So all the different elements and the slides that I skipped, they will be explained in much more detail during that session. So you're all welcome to this conference. So at the end, if you have identified, if you have your target product profile, you have your IP protection, you have your proof of concept until a certain stage of TRL, a certain stage of maturity, if you have some ideas about the market potential, and if you have a strategy for licensing, and also an idea about the value of your asset. Now, valuation, I think that's a webinar on itself, so we didn't talk about that today, but it's also important. But if you have all that, then you can start negotiating with industry about a collaboration and maybe a license on your technology. So then you can start with that green arrow here. So after this process, you can start negotiating. Hopefully, it will end up in a new product for the animal health sector with real impact, and that it will bring you a lot of money in return. But I think the key the take-home message of today is that you shouldn't go too fast through that whole process, and talk with people outside of your lab before you define on which asset you will invest for proof of concept studies, and later on developing something that should be of interest to industry. Talk with them earlier on, and also talk with the regulators earlier on. It will make your process afterwards much more efficient, and the chances of success will increase. So with that, I thank you for your attention and wish you all the best with your innovations. And as said at the beginning, I'm very open to respond to questions or exchange experiences on this journey from discovery to innovation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sven. Thank you for your nice, informative presentation. That was very insightful. You highlighted very clearly that moving from discovery to innovation is not just a scientific process, rather than strategic challenges, including mixed between clear communication and knowledge of the market. I liked your description, Me Too or Blue Ocean. And yeah, also including realistic expectations and trust between partners. Yeah, thank you so much. As a recall for you can start writing your questions on the Q&A session. Let me just check if there is any questions. I don't see it. Questions. So I will take the opportunity to briefly recall the about our previous webinar. The first one was about on how STAR IDAZ research roadmap helps stimulating collaboration and maximize the return on investment and animal health research. The second webinar teached us how to use discount tools, a database for NMET research on innovation needs, and links to the previous sessions are available in the chat window and will be soon published on the STAR IDAZ website, but they are already hosted on YouTube. Well, since we don't have yet questions, and yeah, let me just check. We don't have yet questions, so I'm gonna start with a first question for you. Oh yeah, I don't see. I see someone is. I don't see that.
Should I stop sharing the presentation, or do I keep it on?
Yes, please feel free to stop it. So I can ask you a question, Sven, from my end, since I didn't see it, any question on the Q&A. What is the most appropriate moment to file a patent application from your experience, of course, and your background?
Yeah. Yeah, that also depends. So I refer to the criteria for, that the university uses to be able to have a PhD. So the scientists, of course, they start their research with the objective to have a PhD at the end. And very often they need to have some publications before they can get their PhD. And this is sometimes a problem for universities, because then you always have to file your patent application, of course, before you publish something, meaning that we have to file our patent application rather soon, rather early, before all this proof of concept work still has to be done. So this can, and later on, if you negotiate with the company, you negotiate, for instance, a royalty, and then this royalty can be very much influenced. The percentage that you can get can be very much influenced by the fact that there is a patent, yes or no, because the patent can also protect the partner, of course, from competitors on the same technology. So if you patent very early, then this period of the validity of the patent during the commercial phase can be short, because you need the time first to deliver your proof of concept, and then later on the company needs the time to do the registration and all that work that we've seen. So if there are possibilities, for instance, to have a PhD defense behind closed doors, this can be a possibility to delay the filing of the patent to a certain extent until you have delivered a strong proof of concept, and then file your patent application, so that both parties, both the university and the industrial partner, can take profit from a patent protection during a longer time. Of course, you have to consider also that other people can work on the same asset, so that the risk of being scooped, that somebody else files your patent before you can do, it's all something that you should also consider in defining the most appropriate moment for patent filing, but don't do it by definition in a very early phase, if possible.
Okay. Thank you very much, Sven. That's a very important point to be considered by the applicants. If I can ask you another, but a deep question now. What is the most common barriers you see in academic projects that prevents promising discoveries from moving towards innovation?
The most important barriers, there can be there are many barriers possible.
Yeah.
It's the risk. We are at the moment we are better organized at the university to coach and guide those scientists, our scientists, into this development phase than, let's say, 15 years ago. Because sometimes the barrier is that things have already entered into the public domain before we can protect them. And then that can be, that can destroy the whole possibilities to really create new valorization. Because if that's true, then it will be very hard to find a partner that is willing to invest a lot of money into an asset that is publicly accessible to everybody. And the other thing is really the funding. So funding is available for that basic research, but if you go more to the application and if you need this regulatory support, then it's more difficult to get funding. And it also depends about the possible collaboration with industry. I've presented the funding channels in UK, BBSRC, for instance. Recently, I've seen that there's more flexibility in collaboration or funding collaborations with industry. And in Europe, there are sometimes more difficulties to fund this type of collaboration because it's kind of considered sometimes as a state aid to these companies, and this limits a lot these kind of collaborations. That can be another barrier.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Very fair. Still one point I wanted to raise with this question, maybe it's that it's not all research or researchers consider the end user in their research. Maybe can be also a barrier in considering their research are promising for innovation. Maybe also one of the problems of researchers or that researchers struggling with. Thank you so much. Yeah, okay, go ahead, Sven, please.
So that can be a barrier that the researchers don't consider the application. Is that what you mean?
Well, for innovation, I mean, they don't consider the end user when developing a product or target product profile. The end user sometimes is less considered during the process of this development. So I think that's one of the barriers of of researchers.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I wanted to stress. It's important to do that, to even talk with farmers. If you have an idea about a certain vaccine that and about a way of delivering that vaccine to the animal, talk with the farmer and see what he thinks about it, if it's practical or not. So all this kind of information can be very important to really define that target product profile and that you deliver that you deliver your proof of concept really in the right direction from the first time on, because resources are limited. So you only have one chance to do proof of concept studies. So it should be as good as possible from the first time on.
Okay, so I think it's just time to wrap up the meeting. Thank you to all the attendees and the people that participated to this meeting. We hope that today's session provided practical insights into how discovery can be more effectively translated into innovation in animal health, while recognizing that this process is rarely linear and always context dependent. Yeah, and a warm thank you to you, Sven, Arnold, for sharing your experience. And also, I would like to thank my colleague Hannah, who is supporting us behind the scenes to ensure everything runs smoothly. As a reminder, the recording of this webinar will be made available via Star IDAZ channels and can be shared with colleagues. Please stay connected via the Star IDAZ website for our webinar in January. And one of today concludes the Innovation Academy webinar series for 2025. And we thank you for being part of this journey. Thank you again. And we look forward to continuing these discussions within the Star IDAZ community. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.